Hello everyone, I hope you are well. Today we're going to be discussing how Arsenal have evolved tactically from last season to this season. Some of this is due to injuries, don't get me wrong, but there have been slight tweaks to the Arsenal system and the Arteta ball over the course of the last season. For context, the reason that I wanted to wait until half of the season has been played, minimum, was because initially the stats and the game states were skewed by the red cards that we incurred early in the season, whether that be the Trossard one against City, the Rice one against Brighton, or even the Saliba one against Bournemouth. So having more sort of data to go off now means that we can make a better conclusion when looking at the evidence. The first difference is in how David Raya operates. In the 23-24 season, he had a length of 31.1 for his goalkeeper kicking. That was the sixth least in the league. So Arsenal preferred not to kick long that much at a time. Now, for his kicking, he has an average of 42.4, which is the sixth longest in the league, meaning that we are the sixth most in terms of how far we usually kick. So this has changed exponentially. His launching percentage in the 23-24 season was 35.9% of the time he'd launched a ball. Now that's increased to 57.3%. To me, that means that there's a complete difference in how Arsenal use Raya to progress up the pitch. And I think that can come into two ways. A lot of the time last season, Arsenal would suffocate a team by playing against their rest defence. And it made them come unstuck in games where teams would have a settled rest defence, a deep block, and Arsenal would not be able to get through that deep block. If Raya progresses the ball further and quicker, in theory, then Arsenal will be able to get up the pitch quicker, which means that the team won't be able to settle as quickly into a deep block, and it keeps increasing the 1v1 potential of the players that we have available. Not only that, one thing I do want to point out is the addition of Mikel Merino. We understand that in the last season he was the highest duel winner in Europe. He is someone who excels in the 1v1 duel, whether that be aerially or on the ground. So that increase in duel winning capability means that this season Arsenal are more well equipped to going long, being a little bit more direct from the goalkeeper because they've got the likes of Merino who is set up to then win that second ball. One interesting metric between this season and last season is Raya has the exact same cross percentages stopped, as in he comes off his line and deals with the cross the most in the league, but that is the same from this season to last season. Within the Arteta system, obviously there are going to be some similarities. This season and last season, Arteta's system has the highest line height in the league, but when a team attacks, they still drop off in that 4-4-2 block, medium block, and block off all lines through the channels. So it's the same defensive setup, really. The only difference is they've changed the sides that they attack. So last season, Arteta relied a lot of their attacking play, I think it was something about 60% of their attacking play down that right-hand side. That has dropped this season to 42%. Now, the right-hand side last season always consisted of Benjamin White, Ødegaard and Saka. This season, for sustained periods, Ødegaard's been injured, Ben White's been injured, and Bukayo Saka is currently injured. So that has disrupted the overall balance of the team. That means this season where we differ is we're more balanced in terms of build-up. We play on the right, we play on the left, and we play in the centre. There's a slight bias to the right of 44%, but when you look at the comparables to the rest of the actual team, that isn't actually that much more than, say, the left-hand side or middle. And the reason for it is basically Saka has been out for a long time, Ben White's been out for a long time. We don't have those units that Arteta always likes to discuss to be able to play through. What that means is that we have to create more ways of playing and be more universally balanced, which is a good thing. So to enforce that, what has changed? One thing I noticed last year is the right-hand side would always advance. Ben White would commonly overlap with Bukayo Saka. And this season, it is flipped. So the right side generally is more defensive now on the right back spot, being Urian Timber or Party, whoever plays there. They like to stay in the rest defence and not progress too far forward. The left-hand side, more so because Miles Lewis-Skelly, Calafiori, etc. now enter that position, is more advanced. Whether that be an overlap or an underlap, whether that be inverting or what have you. Miles Lewis-Skelly, I've seen against City and many other times, will get on the edge of the box or just outside the box and try and play a ball through the lines or get in to create another opportunity or another angle for the players to either retain the ball and play it through him, or alternatively step off and he allows that short option. Another time we've seen the left back being more advanced, Calafiori's goal against Man City earlier in the season when he got to just outside the box and levered it in from the edge. That is a way that we have evolved our defensive play. Our rest defence now consists of the right back or CDM covering and then the two centre backs. The left back is not part of our standard rest defence because we like to advance him more. This is more akin to Zinchenko's first season under Arteta when he was the inverted fullback and Ben White would drop in to be the centre back. Now, in the last season, as opposed, the rest defence was more so being the left back spot with Kivior because obviously he was less aesthetically advanced and couldn't really physically cope with the demands to get on as a bombing left back. So it was Kivior, Gabriel, Saliba, and then Ben White would be the one who travelled because he's technically good enough. He'd also invert and play some passes. So that is a notable difference, and I think that is mainly personnel based. But the fact that they are now more able to do it on that left-hand side, the relationships have been built, the development of Miles Lewis-Skelly can only be a good thing for Arsenal. In the long run, though, this is a good thing. Developing a more attacking, balanced shape could really help Arsenal be a multiversal threat for other opposition teams when Saka does come back. Imagine having a team that can absolutely destroy you on either flank as well as in the middle. Our high line means that we can then suffocate teams, but we are also balanced in terms of we can attack from either flank. Now, Ødegaard's role has ever so slightly changed, and I think this might be something that's key. So, due to Saka being away from the squad, Ødegaard takes the corners from the right-hand side because he's left-footed, and we only do in-swinging corners. But one major difference is he continually drops when the centre-backs have the possession on the halfway line. In last season, the 23-24 season, Ødegaard would drop and rightfully take the ball from the centre-backs, but he would drop into that right-hand half space just between the right-back and the centre midfield. Whereas now, when the centre-backs have it, he commonly goes to the halfway line in the centre box to actually receive the ball. That means that when he looks up, he can look either left or right as opposed to just looking for Saka. And I think that is a structural change, as you can see on the heat maps, through what Mikel Arteta is trying to achieve. Ødegaard is obviously the chief creator within this team. The fact that he can then progress the ball either to the left or to the right and dictate play that way is key. Previously, when we were a right-sided bias team, it didn't really matter about Ødegaard looking left for passes because he always could just play it to Saka, knowing that Saka would make the difference. Another difference from last year to this year is that without Saka and the right side link, Arsenal has struggled to link through the lines for opposition. They have struggled against a low block, should we say. They've started putting in more crosses per game than last season. So last season they put in 670 crosses, in ranking 10th in the league for this metric. This year they have already played 489 crosses and rank 4th in the league. That, I think, is coupled with the personnel of the addition of Moreno, because obviously he wins aerial duels, as well as Kai Havertz. So we are set up to cross balls into channels. But I do think that horseshoe also links to the fact that Ødegaard has been out for a sustained period of time this season, and so has Saka. So breaking down that deep block is harder to do. Surprisingly, we are equally as good at set pieces this season as we were last season. The issue is that because of the lack of ability to play through the lines, we're more reliant on them this season. Last season we scored 22 set-piece goals, excluding penalties, and matched the Premier League record of scoring 16 goals from corners. This season we have 9 goals from corners and have 10 set-piece goals in total. So set-pieces, we were arguably a bit more potent overall from free kicks, etc. last season, but this season the corners are slightly at a higher rate per 90, but I believe that will even itself out come the end of the season. In short, Arsenal have evolved their style this season from last season, mainly due to new signings and also injuries that have happened. Last season, they relied heavily on the right-hand side, which is the main talking point, whereas this season, due to injuries with Saka, the team is now more balanced. As I said, I do believe that is probably because of going to affect us positively in the long run. Not only that, Arteta has changed the rest defence so it's more right-sided in terms of being defensive as opposed to left-sided, which it was last season. This means that there's more support for the left-hand-sided players, but it could also mean that going into the last stretch of the season, Tierney could be a key cog that Arsenal could turn to, because we all know that Tierney is good at defence-splitting crossing. So that is an evolution. Granted, a lot of it is personnel-based. It'll be interesting to see when Saka is back in the team if we continue to have that left-sided, more attacking roles for the team, as we did when Zinchenko initially joined the club, or if alternatively we revert back to the right-hand side being more advanced with Saka, Ødegaard and Ben White when both players are back. That'll be an interesting thing, but I do think there is something positive about developing that balance across the front line, developing Martinelli into a right-hand-sided role in case we need it. But that's the tactical tweaks that I've seen from Arsenal this season. I think a lot of it, as I said, is situational, but certain aspects, e.g. the crossing, the duels, the long part from the goalkeeper, I think could be tactical with regards to personnel that we brought in, for example, bringing in Marino. I hope you have enjoyed. As always, if you have enjoyed, please be sure to like and subscribe on today's video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.